It's Thursday, November 15th, and this is Now on HNN.
I'm hoping Trump announces he's going to run for president because we need him back.
Former President Trump is pushing ahead with his big announcement today. I'm Bradley Blackburn near Mar-a-Lago with supporters ready for a presidential run and other Republicans who hope he'll wait.
A string of robberies in and around Moana Center prompts safety warnings as holiday shopping begins.
These are all crimes of opportunity.
Alaska Airlines has a new partnership with Mokulele. We'll tell you what that means for the next time you book Inter-Island.
We are totally committed to the state of Hawaii.
All these stories plus, we'll check out the brand new Waikiki showroom of the late Big Eyes artist, Margaret Keane. That's coming up on This Is Now. Getting started today with this breaking news. 2 missiles or rockets are reported to have hit a farm in Poland near the border with Ukraine. 2 people are reported killed. We just got this new video into our newsroom from the scene. It's unclear where the projectiles came from. However, the missiles or rockets landed at roughly the same time as a Russian missile attack was underway in western Ukraine.
Now, this is all unfolding as world leaders, including President Biden, are meeting in Bali for the G20 summit. Hawaii News Now's White House correspondent John Decker is there and tells us how people are reacting to these latest developments.
Well, President Biden will be waking up this morning to this news here in Bali, Indonesia, but we've already seen reaction from the U.S. State Department. They are cautious in their reaction because we don't know the full details. We don't know whether this was a stray missile that landed into Polish territory by accident, whether it was a targeted attack, which seems unlikely. The attack was on a farm in Poland. We also don't know whether this missile was set off course by a Ukrainian missile, which has been defending its airspace against these incoming Russian missiles over the last few months. So a lot that we don't know at this point. People are jumping to the conclusion that this could perhaps lead to the invocation in NATO of Article 5. It's premature for that. Article 4 of the NATO Charter could be invoked, however. That would call for consultations with NATO members trying to determine their course of action in terms of what comes next. As far as Russia is concerned, they call a statement that was put out by the media that this is a quote here, a provocation. They say that their missiles did not land into Polish territory.
Now, this is the first meeting of the G20 since Russia invaded Ukraine. What actions do world leaders plan to take against Putin?
This is the number one issue for President Biden here at the G20, trying to keep the coalition, which has been united against Ukraine, in that same way. The majority of G20 members will likely put out a statement at the conclusion of this G20 summit condemning Russia for its action that it's taken against Ukraine, the illegal invasion of a sovereign country. In addition to that, we could see additional sanctions taken by a majority of G20 countries against Russia. So that is what is occurring here. The president has met with a number of U.S. allies during the course of his time here yesterday with Turkish President Erdogan and also the new Prime Minister of Italy, Prime Minister Meloni. Today, he'll be meeting with the UK Prime Minister. And the number one issue on the agenda for all of these discussions is Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
And John, what is the focus of this year's G20 summit?
Well, beyond Ukraine, you have other issues as well. Certainly climate. This is a major priority of the Biden administration, a major announcement coming yesterday from the U.S. and 10 other countries concerning investment as it relates to moving Indonesia towards a green economy. The investment, $20 billion. Indonesia is the 10th largest emitter of greenhouse gases in the world, and this investment is aimed at lowering their carbon footprint substantially. So there's that. And then, of course, recovering from the COVID pandemic. And lastly, it is an economic summit primarily. And in that regard, what the U.S. and other countries are trying to do is forestall the possibility of a global recession. So there have been discussions not only between President Biden and his counterparts, but also our Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen and her counterparts trying to have a united front trying to reduce the risk of a global recession.
All right, Hawaii News Now's White House correspondent John Decker joining us from Bali today. We appreciate you getting up so early, John.
We've got more developing political news to get to right now. If you haven't heard already, former President Trump planning a big announcement for 4 p.m. Hawaii time. We're going to bring it to you live on your H&N digital platforms and, of course, at first at 4. His supporters think this means another run for the White House. Here's Bradley Blackburn with more from West Palm Beach.
Supporters are already flying Trump 2024 flags outside the former president's Mar-a-Lago club and home, and paraphernalia is for sale nearby.
I am a Trump girl, as my shirt says.
Eager supporters are awaiting word.
I'm hoping Trump announces he's going to run for president because we need him back.
I'm going to be making a very big announcement.
For months, the former president has been dropping hints he wants his old job back. And sources close to Donald Trump tell CBS News he intends to launch his 2024 presidential campaign tonight from Mar-a-Lago. That's in spite of disappointing GOP midterm results for candidates Trump endorsed.
Anybody can run. I think, the world has changed considerably just in recent weeks.
Anticipating tonight's announcement, President Biden tweeted a new ad hitting his predecessor on what's now Biden's signature legislation.
I want to rebuild our infrastructure first. Infrastructure.
Trump also brings legal baggage to a potential candidacy, including his handling of classified documents that followed him all the way here to Mar-a-Lago and the New York Attorney General's investigation into his business practices. But there are other things Trump has that potential rivals don't. Nearly $100 million in campaign funds, a devoted base of at least 30% in any 2024 primary contest, a full digital operation with more than 50 million voter contacts and support at state and local party levels. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, a possible challenger, deflected a reporter's question about Trump's criticism of him.
When you're leading, when you're getting things done, you take incoming fire. That's just the nature of it.
An early announcement from Trump could pressure other hopefuls to move faster or stay out of the fray. Bradley Blackburn, CBS News, West Palm Beach, Florida.
Brazen daytime robberies in and around Moana Center. Witnesses say the suspects appear to be armed teenagers. And sources tell us a 15-year-old was arrested in connection with the crimes yesterday after another incident, and the other suspects remain at large. Allison Blair has the details.
Police sources confirm the crimes happened back-to-back Sunday afternoon over the span of just a few hours. The first report came in just after 3 yesterday afternoon from inside the Mackay Market food court at Moana Center. That's when 3 high school students were allegedly held up by 2 other teenagers. Law enforcement sources say the suspects threatened to stab one of the victims in the neck. A little over an hour later, a man called police after 2 teens armed with a machete tried to take his fanny pack outside the Planet Fitness. A few minutes later, a third robbery was reported a couple blocks down the street near the intersection of Kona and Pi'ikoi. We're told investigators believe the same suspects carried out all 3 crimes.
This is during the day?
The owner of Scott Hawaii tells us she isn't surprised, saying there's a group of kids on bikes targeting businesses too.
We've been ripped off. Our building is right down here. They walk right in our door, pick up a whole box of slippers and walk out.
These are all crimes of opportunity.
The retired HPD deputy chief says with the holidays approaching, the number of robberies, car break-ins, and purse snatchings will likely rise.
The bad guys prey on people. They just don't walk up to any old person. They pick their victims.
To protect yourself, he says, always be aware of your surroundings.
When you're shopping, park in well-lit areas, park in areas that are well-traveled, walk fast, walk like you know what you're doing. Look around. They don't want to be seen. They want to catch you by surprise.
When it's time to head back to your car,
Pull your keys out and have them in your hand. You minimize that time, that vulnerability.
McCarthy also advises against stashing shopping bags in your trunk.
Do your shopping, all of your shopping. Make one trip back to the car.
If you have any information on any of these cases, you're asked to call Honolulu Crime Stoppers. At Moana, Allison Blair, Hawaii News Now.
Now, we told you about this next story first today on Sunrise. Alaska Airlines planning a new inter-island partnership. Here's Howard Dykes with the details.
Alaska Airlines had record revenue over the summer and has been rebuilding its substantial network to Hawaii. Ben Minicucci is the CEO of Alaska Airlines, and he joins us now. First of all, how has the comeback been from the pandemic?
You know, it's been strong, Howard, and thanks for having me. Our balance sheet's back to pre-pandemic levels. We're going to be profitable for the year, so I'm really pleased on where the airline is right now.
Now, you scaled back Alaska coverage a little bit when things were really slow, but it's still a major part of Alaska's network.
It is. You know, it's a big part of our franchise. It's about 15% of our network, and we are totally committed to the state of Hawaii and getting back to pre-pandemic levels.
You just announced a new deal. In fact, I think this morning is the announcement that you're doing a sort of a code share and mileage share with Mokulele Airlines.
Yeah, so we entered that partnership. It'll start in 2023. We're excited to give our guests access to more beautiful parts of the state, and they'll be able to book their flights directly on alaskaair.com and earn miles doing it.
Now, one thing that struck me as interesting about this is that because you do have mainland operations as well, this extends not just to Mokulele, but its sister airlines on the mainland.
That's right. Yeah, it extends across both networks. Yeah.
And you can choose where to assign the miles when you fly this way?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Now, I've been wanting to ask you this for a long time. Alaska is purely a U.S. carrier. You don't have any flights to Japan or Asia. But for geographical reasons, I wanted to know if you ever think about that or review the possibility of doing that.
You know, I always say that, everything is possible, but we entered a partnership with One World. We're a One World carrier, so that gives us access to the entire world. So there's 14 global carriers. If you're an elite member at Alaska, your elite status is recognized. You're able to accrue and redeem miles. You have access to 750 lounges. So us being part of One World gives us access to the entire world.
Your friend and arch rival Hawaiian Airlines made a big deal of air cargo during the slump, and it helped them a lot, I think, on planes that didn't have a lot of passengers for a while. So I was wondering how big air cargo is as a role for Alaska.
It's quite big. You know, we have 3 dedicated freighters at Alaska, serving especially the state of Alaska. But we're getting 2 more freighters in 2023, so we're growing our cargo operation. So it's been a big part of our strategy.
Geographically, what does it mean for Alaska that's different from other airlines that you fly to a place where it gets cold and snows?
You know, I always tell people that Alaska is probably going to run into the most diverse networks. You know, that airplane could be one day in Barrow, Alaska, where it's minus 30, and in about 15 hours, it could be in Fort Lauderdale, or it could be in New York, or it could be in San Diego, or it could be in Honolulu. That's our network, and that's what it's like, and I think it's quite diverse, and I know our pilots love flying our network.
Well, speaking of flying, if you're traveling this Thanksgiving, be prepared for crowds. So 54.6 million people are expected to travel this holiday season, according to AAA. And that's slightly up from 2021 and nearly as high as pre-pandemic volumes. Despite inflation and current economic woes, demand for travel doesn't seem to be waning. So here are some tips from travel experts. Leave time for airport parking because it fills up fast. Build in time for those long TSA security lines, and if possible, avoid checking a bag.
I'm hopping on a flight. Hope everything goes smoothly. Always cross my fingers and just be grateful if things go smoothly still in all these jams and traffic jams we hear about. And just be thankful for that.
Right.
You're right? All right, one place many people were going to, Los Angeles. Check out the Hollywood sign right there. It just check the temp. 72 degrees in Los Angeles as we look at that freshly painted Hollywood sign. And it's 75 degrees currently right here on Oahu. Here's a check of all the weather updates from Guy Hoggy.
By tomorrow, we'll see fewer showers, but on Thursday, another round of showers moves in, mainly windward and Mauka, mainly light to moderate rainfall, and then fewer showers as we head into the weekend. So that's going to be the case for the next 7 days. A weak disturbance today with scattered showers, mainly windward and Mauka, mainly Maui County this morning, and then drier conditions, just a few minor splashes tomorrow, and then another weak disturbance comes in with a few more pronounced rainfall events. And then on Friday, we'll see drier conditions heading into the weekend. Heads up though, on Saturday it's going to be quite windy again on Monday. But still, that's a long stretch of fairly nice trade wind conditions.
NASA's countdown continues for the planned liftoff of its new moon rocket overnight. Chris Pallone reports from Cape Canaveral.
After 2 scrubbed launch attempts and 2 hurricanes, NASA is ready to try again. Liftoff for the SLS rocket scheduled for 1:04 Eastern Time early Wednesday morning. If the uncrewed Artemis 1 mission finally gets off the ground, humans could once again orbit the moon within 2 years. The goal to put Americans' boots on the lunar surface for the first time since the 70s in 2025 or 26. It promises to be a future of firsts.
It's a future where NASA will land the first woman and the first person of color on the moon.
The rocket endured high winds and heavy rain last week on Launch Pad 39B during Hurricane Nicole. Flight engineers are convinced a strip of rubber which peeled off the Orion crew capsule won't impact the launch. The first 2 attempts in August and September were thwarted by a faulty temperature sensor and a hydrogen leak during fueling.
Launch Director Charlie Blackwell-Thompson has called a scrub.
We're beyond the one small step. Now we're into the giant leap part of it now.
During the Apollo program, the moon was the goal. Now with Artemis, it's just the beginning.
This is about putting footsteps into the solar system to be permanent explorers. So not only the moon, but asteroids, Mars, and eventually beyond.
If the launch is successful, the Orion crew capsule will orbit the moon for about 2 weeks before returning to Earth and splashing down in the Pacific next month. At the Kennedy Space Center, Chris Pallone, NBC News.
Love that soundbite. We're beyond the small step and into the giant leap.
Love it.
Very cool. All right, big crossover news on CBS and KGMB. For the first time ever, the teams from NCIS Hawaii, NCIS Los Angeles unite for a 3-hour crossover event. They're working on a high-stakes case to take down the mysterious hitman who killed their beloved trainer. The back-to-back episodes are set to air January 2nd on KGMB, and you can stream them on Paramount Plus as well.
3 hours.
I know, that's a lot of NCIS there. Yes.
That's right. Well, Grammy nominations are out, and Beyonce is leading the pack. So Queen Bee received 9 nominations for her album Renaissance, including nods for Record of the Year, for Dance Anthem Break My Soul, and Album of the Year. Now, with 28 wins and 88 total career nods, Beyonce now ties her husband, rapper Jay-Z, for the most nominations in Grammy history. Other notables that got nominated: Kendrick Lamar with 8 nominations, Adele and Brandi Carlile each with 7, as well as Harry Styles, Mary J. Blige, Future, DJ Khaled, and the producer and songwriter The Dream, each with 6. The Grammys will take place February 5th in LA.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And other big show in the works for Thanksgiving every year.
That's
we love
right.
This.
Work is well underway on floats for the 96th Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. 5 new floats will debut in next week's celebration. You can catch Baby Shark from Nickelodeon, among other displays from Toys R Us, Macy's, Netflix, and Wonder. Now, each set is thought up and created by Macy's Parade Studio, which is a crew of carpenters, engineers, balloon technicians, and others who work to put together the festive displays. The new floating sites were unveiled today in New Jersey, and they will glide down the streets of Manhattan this Turkey Day.
Love the dinosaur.
Yeah.
All right, to some good news. You know, artist Margaret Keane, well, she did pass away over the summer, but the good news is there's a brand new gallery of her works that have opened up in Waikiki, and it is very cool. I got a chance to tour the showroom, and here's what it looks like.
We wanted to get back to Hawaii since Margaret was here for so many years, 27 years, and the plan was before she had just recently passed, and the opportunity kind of fell in our lap to kind of do a turnkey opening. So we're here for the next year.
Anthony Brown's family has represented artist Margaret Keane for decades. Keane Eyes Gallery has had a location in San Francisco for much of that time, but now a new space at the International Marketplace is turning heads.
Depending who it is and what age they are. Since the movie came out, I've noticed there's been an influx of younger teens or a little bit older that have seen the movie, and they're just so enamored with her work, and they have no idea that she was at that point, she was in her 80s into 90s, and it just spoke to them.
Work is larger than life and very identifiable and iconic in Hawaii in particular.
The works known for their sad, large eyes since the 1960s, but back then, no one even knew she was the real artist behind these iconic faces. Her husband, Walter, falsely claimed credit for her work. She divorced him and moved to Hawaii. And in 1970, she told a reporter that her former husband had painted none of the big-eyed paintings. Then in 1986, Margaret called a dramatic paint-off challenge in a Honolulu court where she had brought a defamation suit against Walter. This scene was recreated for the biopic Big Eyes, starring Amy Adams.
Maybe I could sign it myself.
That sounds a bit confusing, doesn't it? Keane means me.
Margaret was able to paint a work in less than an hour. Her ex, who represented himself in the case, said he had a sore shoulder and could not paint. Margaret won the case.
I think a lot of the uncertainty about who did them would be cleared up.
Yes, over 2 decades she left San Francisco and then she came here, and then there was that change in her work. She was doing a lot of urban motif or urban colors, meaning like gray or brown, very dark, monotone colors. And then when she came to the island, then everything started brightening up, and then you saw the resurgence, especially with the influence of the Asian culture and then the animals, and then everything just started getting much brighter and happier as well.
So you may recall some of her paintings depicting scenes and subjects from Hawaii have been in the news in recent years, such as this one. It was stolen 50 years ago from a Honolulu dentist office, only to be returned to its original owner last year after being found through an auction sale of more than $30,000. Can't afford an original? There's other options.
We do have some prints here that are on canvas, like a giclée. So those start at $55 to $100, and then there's some that are signed, and those are a little bit more. Those start around $300. But then we also have limited editions and drawings. So I mean, there's something for everyone at a certain price brackets, and then of course the original paintings and drawings.
So if you don't know where it is in the IMP, it's on the second floor. It's sort of around the little treehouse area on the second floor. That whole wing over there is really turned into a nice little gallery housing. Several galleries have popped up there. This one's just temporary, going to be around for about a year.
Very cool. I love the paint off in court.
I know. It's an amazing story.
Yeah.
Streaming on Netflix. Check it out. You guys, that's it for This Is Now. Our extended stream continues in just minutes on your H&N digital platforms, and the very latest news coming up on First at 4 on KHNL.